It's been 1 year and it feels like I just started yesterday. So it's officially been 1 year since I started my digital minimalism journey. I've learned a lot on this journey. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and I still have a long way to go. But I want to reflect back on where I started and where I am now and where I hope to go. And hopefully those of you who are on a similar journey or thinking about starting your own journey and maybe be able to relate or be inspired to start your own journey. So my journey started on September 11th of 2023. This was the day that I broke. Mentally, it's hard to go back to that day, but I can appreciate that it needed to happen in order to be where I am today. So on September 11th of 2023, I was working a high-pressure full-time job as a social media marketer for one of the biggest health tech companies in France. This essentially meant that I was spending all day, every day on social media, so I was using primarily Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So I was spending a lot of time on these apps. Mind you, I was also going through a visual impairment and a diagnosis for what I'd later come to find out was a genetic issue and an explanation of why I was struggling so much. So at this point, I was getting migraines every day, I was very unhappy, and I was going through a lot of stresses of the diagnosis part of my visual impairment at the same time. Plus, to add insult to injury, I had a 3-year-old son who was entering school for the first time, my husband was on a business trip, and everything kind of just accumulated on this specific day. I was in a meeting with my boss, the meeting wasn't going well, and I broke. So I got immediate emergency medical help. Whenever you're feeling like this, or someone you know is feeling like this, it's really important to talk to a health professional immediately. I also reached out to friends and family, and luckily, I was able to make it past that point, and I'm here today. I will forever be grateful for those who helped me in that early stage, but I did get through it, and luckily I got through it to the other side. With that in mind, the next day I knew I had to make some changes. Yes, I was in a mentally bad state, but I didn't get there overnight, and I started to reevaluate my life a little bit more. I didn't know anything about digital minimalism, I didn't even know the word at this point, but I knew that technology was making me mentally unwell. It's not healthy to be spending most of your waking hours on social media, whether it be for your job or your personal life. I was spending all day for my job, and then I was going home and spending it for entertainment purposes, so I wasn't really living off of a screen. So the day after my mental break, I decided to stop using social media that was making me physically ill. This included Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. They were the first to go off my smartphone, and at this point I was still using a smartphone, but we'll get to that later on. Once I removed the toxic social media, I felt that a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and this was the first step to kind of make me think about my relationship with technology. I got more and more curious about what else I could do, and I started to fall down the rabbit hole of digital minimalism. I first discovered digital minimalism through the book with the same name by Cal Newport. I read this book and it gave me a lot of food for thought about how I could change my lifestyle and to live with technology but live in a healthier way. So then I also stumbled across many digital minimalist YouTubers, and I started to fall into the idea of dumbphones. Now, I thought at the time when I started that a dumbphone would cure all of my problems, and boy was I wrong about that. So I started off with a feature phone, a Nokia 6300 4G. So basically this phone gave me the ability to call and text, and it also had applications such as WhatsApp, Facebook, and it was kind of baby steps into the process of weaning myself off of highly addictive applications. At this point, I was still doom scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, and I was not having a healthy relationship with any social media app that I still had access to. I was also somebody who would grab their phone and out of boredom or out of anxiety and of course out of depression. I wanted to escape my reality. I was going through with managing a disability and I just didn't want to deal with that yet. I was really not in a great state, and I didn't know how to stop using technology or how to use it in a healthier manner. So when I started using my feature phone, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole of dumb phones in general. So I skipped around to different phones and devices. I went to a minimalist phone, which was the Punked MP01, and then I jumped back to more feature phones, and then I kind of went around using older phones, newer phones. I even had a relapse where I had bought the iPhone 15 Pro Max because I thought it would motivate me to really start my YouTube channel seriously. It did get me started with doing B-roll and things like that, but honestly, it was toxic and I wish I had never purchased it. It set me back in my digital minimalism journey and I had to get rid of it. I sold it. I ended up replacing it with a Google Pixel, which I do use for B-roll and I use it for my work purposes, and it's essentially stayed as that. I haven't used it as a phone. I don't have a SIM card in it. It just sits on the side of my desk. But going back to the dumb phones, I realized that dumb phones would not cure my digital minimalism. I was still finding ways to waste time on them and really not understand what a phone was. I had to relearn what a phone was. I had to relearn that it's used for calling and texting and basic communication. That's it. I guess maybe a voice note here or there. Because I am visually impaired, I needed to use my phone for certain applications, but I found non-tech ways to get around certain issues with my visual impairment. So as the year progressed, I realized that I needed to relearn what a phone was, but also kind of encapsulate my tech for certain use cases. I moved all of my productivity applications and anything work-related onto my laptop. I also had to change which devices I used for entertainment. I had purchased a Lenovo tablet for YouTube or any streaming services, and then I just started using my phone for communication purposes. I love phones. Some people love shoes, watches, or bags. I love phones. I've always loved phones. I always will love phones, and that's something that's never going to go away. But how I use and have a relationship with phones has changed dramatically. I really only see them as a tool for calling and texting, and that's it. I don't use them as my camera, except for my Google Pixel I do use for B-roll, but I really don't take pictures much with it at all anymore, and I'm not using it for my entertainment purposes. I'm not using it out of boredom or anxiety. I really have changed my relationship with phones, and it's a continuous process. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I don't fall into bad habits. Of course I do. I'm human. That's part of dealing with an addiction. And I think in the past year, I've learned to be less hard on myself when I fall off the wagon per se, and start to recognize that I'll have good days, I'll have bad days. But as I go along in the journey, I have more good days than bad days. So that has really motivated me to keep going. Another aspect of the digital minimalism journey, I learned how to let go of things that I thought I needed. For example, I left the Apple ecosystem. This has a lot of people up in arms and is still my highest viewed video by far. I think leaving the Apple ecosystem gave me the push to see that I don't need to be restricted to one company or one idea or one device per se, and it's kind of given me the freedom to choose what I want to use and when I want to use it without being tied down to an ecosystem. Yes, I do use the Google ecosystem, but I find it's a lot easier to manage and I can use it on different devices without using a Google device. I've also used a lot less Google services than I used previously, and I found that not being tied to one ecosystem is just liberating. It's free. I feel like I had gravitated towards Apple because it works well, it's easy to use, and you don't have to really think about it. Honestly, I was so depressed and anxious in my life and with technology. I just wanted a service that kind of fit all of my needs and thought for me, and Apple was great for that. I have no regrets when I was using it, and they make beautiful devices and really enticing devices and something that's too tempting for me. I don't need something that's beautiful and looks like a piece of art. I need something that's functional and does the job it needs to do, and that's it. So that was a big step in my digital minimalism journey, was just breaking away from an ecosystem. Another big step was realizing that social media wasn't my only issue with tech. I also was using streaming services such as Spotify for my music. So getting rid of Spotify and relearning how to like music again, how to look for music, listen to music, organize playlists, and it's a continuous process for my music journey for sure, but it's something I definitely don't regret. It's a hobby that I've picked up again, and I really love listening to MP3 players, CDs again, and having that physical aspect and relationship with the artist and the music is fantastic, and I really recommend it for those of you thinking of leaving a music streaming platform. Other things I have learned along the way is that I was addicted to online shopping. A lot of shopping applications, of course, like Amazon or any discount apps, secondhand apps. Honestly, sometimes I fall into eBay when I'm feeling a bit anxious today. But I've gotten rid of all of those apps on my portable devices such as smartphones, of course, because I'm not really using a smartphone right now, but also my tablets, and kind of just left them on my computer. So if I feel the urge, I have to turn on my computer and go on, and that kind of takes away all that. So in turn, I've been financially better the past year because I'm not spending money on things I don't necessarily need. And it's kind of made me fall into the path of minimalism, which I didn't intend to do. I kind of just wanted to stick to digital minimalism. But as you know, if you go through the digital minimalism journey, other aspects of your life start to change and you start to reevaluate everything. And that's the beauty of digital minimalism. Another thing I've learned with digital minimalism is that you learn the value of time as well as the value of your health. These are two things that you cannot buy and that you are not guaranteed to have tomorrow. So this has been a big lesson. As somebody who's going through a progressive disability, I learned to appreciate every day, and having a visual impairment really gives you a different outlook on life, both figuratively and literally. I had to take a step back and decide what is actually worth my time to look at. Because when I'm reading or using screens or things like that, I'm very prone to eye strain and migraines, and it's a lot of work, to be honest. So I had to make the decision to leave my job. It was a very difficult decision, but also a very easy decision. I know money's important, but with digital minimalism, I've realized that health and your time is a lot more important than just money or a job that you don't really like. I know that it will be a journey financially to not have a job, having the status of saying what job you have or what prestigious company you work for. Sure, on the surface seems important, but digital minimalism has taught me that it's not important. It's just a job. There's other ways you can earn money. And for me, money is not really important if you don't have health or time to spend that money. So honestly, I have no regrets leaving my job. I'm working on this channel full time. Of course, it's not replacing my previous salary or things like that, but again, it's going to be a progressive thing, and I really want to focus my time on something that I like looking at. I don't want to waste my time looking at spreadsheets or things like that because it was hurting me. And to force yourself to do something that's physically painful is really hard to do unless you really love it. And I really love YouTube. I really love editing. Yes, it can be hard on my eyes, but it's something that I really love doing. And I can kind of manage my time a bit easier than working in a corporate job, for example. Another thing, of course, with digital minimalism is the time. I didn't realize how much time I was wasting on my devices, and now I have that time back. Yes, it's a bit depressing looking back the past 10 or 15 years of all the time I wasted looking at devices and not spending time with friends or family, but I can look at it positively and say that I am aware of my time now and I have that time back. I have that time to spend with my son, my husband, my family, and of course my friends. And I really appreciate all of the people in my life more than I ever have because I'm not staring at a screen and I have time to spend with them in the moment. I really learned to appreciate the moment, where I'm at, who I'm with, and the environment around me, and not being glued to my screen has really taught me to appreciate it. Even the simple things, even the fact of being bored. I used to daydream, or the best ideas I get even for YouTube or things like that are when I'm just sitting there doing nothing. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have a channel. If you look at my channel, it was actually started in 2015, but I didn't post until 2024 because I was filling all of my free time with staring at a screen and I didn't have time to be bored or be inspired to be creative. So that has been an amazing gift by following the digital minimalism journey. Now, where do I see myself going with this journey? I think it's something that's never going to go away. It's a lifestyle, to be honest, and it's something that's ever evolving. I'm always redefining on the devices, the technology I'm using, and how I'm using it. I'm rearranging where my devices are in my home, for example, or how long I'm spending on specific devices, or whether those devices are even needed at all. Recently, I've been experimenting with some offline options, especially for my visual impairment. I realized the power of magnifying glasses. I was using my phone or I was using applications to read things for me, but in fact, I still have enough usable vision if I'm using adaptations such as specific magnifying glasses. I can kind of see the documents and labels and things like that that I couldn't see previously and was relying on technology to read it for me. It also gives me a sense of independence. It gives me a sense of being able to do things myself while I still can. Maybe at some point I won't be able to do these things, but while I still can, being able to use offline versions have been really helpful. I've also gotten off of productivity applications. I was using Notion a lot to manage my channel, to manage any notes, but I've actually gone back to using just a notebook and a pen, and that has been great. Being able to write, even if I can't read it again, has been able to really organize my thoughts and really help me to manage this channel and manage my content better. And if you haven't seen recently, I've also started a health journey thanks to digital minimalism. I'm following a healthier lifestyle without using any technology. So I'm not using fitness apps, I'm not using a smartwatch. I'm basically just going the old-fashioned way of moving more and eating better. And I'm using a journal that I'm writing down in to keep track of my stats, and being able to go back and forth and see where I was at in the beginning and end has been super helpful. I wish I had done this for the digital minimalism journey, to be honest. It would be nice to go back to see where I was at and where I am now and kind of compare my journey, but I didn't do that. And if you're thinking about going on a digital minimalism journey, I definitely highly recommend journaling it or just keeping some thoughts that you were going through the specific processes and what you were doing, so that way you can be proud of yourself and look back on it. I want to thank everyone who has been there since the beginning of my posting, who has joined recently, and any of you thinking of following a similar lifestyle, or if you're not, if you just think this is craziness and just want to watch the train wreck, that's fine too. I'm really happy you're here anyway. And thank you all so much for watching, and see you soon.